swing and a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawley Jean.
This is the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network. It's episode number 361, and Crawley, the Cubs offense has disappeared. Offense broke, as Theo used to say. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe. Most importantly, review the podcast. You can see what I'm up to on social media. You check me out, Mully and Haw on X.
And you can follow me at Crawley's Cubs on X, Blue Sky, and TikTok, and Crawley's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. And you can email us at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. Dustin, there's still one more game in this series, but we didn't have a good feeling going into this one.
No, this was not something that felt right going in, and the goal was, don't get swept, right? That was the goal. Don't get swept. And they may still get swept as we're going live here, recording, depending on which version of us you are listening to. They've got Ben Brown, and they've got a tough road ahead of them because Chris Sale's going for the Braves.
And again, this is another 39, 38-year-old guy like they faced off against DeGrom that just still has all these years. I mean, it's so impressive when you get these guys like DeGrom or Verlander, Scherzer, or Chris Sale. It's just unbelievable. But we were concerned, and this is what we said as far as our predictions. Collins 2-0 lifetime against the Braves with a 3.97 ERA in 6 starts. He made one start against.
All right, let's predict it, Crowley. We got 3 big games coming up, starting on Tuesday. Pitching matchups are interesting. I'll go first. Don't get swept. Don't get swept. I think they win the first game. They lose the second 2. So I got them going 1 for 2, winning Tuesday, losing on Tuesday. Winning Tuesday, losing Wednesday, losing Thursday. 1 and 2.
I have the Cubs losing 2 out of 3, but I believe that the Shota Imanaga start is the one they're going to win. I think if the Cubs somehow take 2 out of 3, they're going to win Tuesday, Wednesday. I don't think it's going to be pretty versus Chris Sale.
I would totally agree.
Yep, I felt good about the Shota start, and Shota held up his end of the bargain. Unfortunately, as the title of this episode, offense has disappeared, right?
Yeah, it's just not there right now. I mean, we're going to go through a couple of the games, but they have 5 hits in 2 games, and Bregman, who got the day off on Sunday, we wondered if that could help, and apparently it has helped him. And I asked the question today on the Mully and Haw Show, Crowley. I said, you can't give everybody the day off now, right? But who might you give the day off against Chris Sale? So obviously, a lefty batter, right? Give a lefty batter off against Chris Sale. You want to load up the right-handed hitters. Obviously, Moises Ballesteros, I'm guessing, is not playing. I think the lineup just came out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it did.
And so DHing tonight is Seiya Suzuki. Matt Shaw is in right field. So I did, Alex Bregman's playing third, Haps in left. Miguel Amaya is back behind the plate after a couple of nights off. So, they're stacking it with their righties, and you will not see Mo Baller in there unless they go to a lefty in the bullpen. So that makes sense. And I'm guessing, Crawley, that when they go over to the south side, which we're going to talk about during this episode, I'm guessing Mo Baller will be back in the lineup a couple of times. I don't think he's going to be batting second, though. I don't think he's going to be batting third. I think they've got to flip that around a little bit just so this stuff happens. I heard Craig Counsell on today with our afternoon show of Spiegel and Holmes. And Craig basically said, we need Moises balls to find the grass. Like that's what, you got to put the ball in the grass or out of the park. That's fine too. But, he is just hitting it super hard and just in the wrong spot. And so, he's not striking out a ton. He's making good contact. He's hitting the crap out of the ball. His exit velo, and I'm not like Joe exit velo, but the exit velo is pretty good. And eventually it's going to come around, right? I mean, you would think. I mean, that's just one of the problems that's going on here with the offense broke. But again, you lose a game. Let's just go through it, right? Let's go through this game. The first game, Colin Ray, Grant Holmes. Cubs dropped this one 5-2. They get 2 runs on 1 hit, and it was a solo home run. But let's get into it. Key number 1, Crawley, is what we're talking about. 1 hit, 1 freaking hit.
Yep. And to hat tip to Bob Uecker. That's all we got. 1 goddamn hit. Yeah, that was classic major league there. But we recapped the Cubs series loss to the Rangers on the last episode, and they were shut out in back-to-back games. We also talked about 5 players being on the cold list when it comes to hitting. Well, more of the same in the opener. The Cubs only had 1 base runner through the first 3 innings against Grant Holmes, of all people, on a walk. Cubs hadn't scored a run since the 7th inning on Friday night. It's a 23 innings without a run, the most consecutive innings without a run since a 24-inning span, August 31st to September 2nd, 2019, which I thought was interesting just because that was, still a pretty good team to go that long. Just kind of shows you it happens. But the streak did come to an end when Alex Bregman hit a solo home run with 1 out in the 4th to tie the game at 1. The next batter, Ian Happ, battled to draw a walk, and then Grant Holmes lost the strike zone, right? I think he got nervous after he gave up the home run to Bregman, and so he threw 8 straight balls. You load the bases one out, and then this is what you were talking about, Dustin, about Mo Baller, just, bad luck. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. He sits there, you got the bases loaded, he hits one 107 off the bat. The Braves were able to get, but it doesn't go out of the infield. And the Braves were able to get the lead runner at second, but a run does score. Cubs up 2-1. But now that there's 2 outs, runners at the corner, Dansby strikes out on 3 straight breaking balls. Dustin, this season, Dansby's hitting .037 against breaking balls. Threw him 3, right? Boom, 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 done. That would be it for Holmes, but Didier Fuentes would pitch 3 scoreless innings, and Dylan Lee and Raciel Iglesias would close it out. Let's hear from the skipper, Craig Counsell, on this one right here. I can tell you he wasn't too happy.
And then offensively, we did something for 1 inning, and that wasn't enough. And 6 base runners tonight, not enough. So that's the game. And then they went to the bullpen right away, and I thought Fuentes did it. When you go to the bullpen after 4 innings with the team, you're like, you got a shot here. But Fuentes did a really nice job against us. He shut us down. It was really nothing.
Usually the Cubs are able to get that starter out early and then beat up on the bullpen, but this is the Braves bullpen, and it was really good.
Really good, the bullpen. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
1 hit, 5 walks, 6 base runners, only 1 inning where there was a runner that got past first base. Cubs were 0 for 2 with runners left on base. Since their last win on Friday, Dustin, the Cubs were 0 for 19 with 18 men left on base. How often is it, Dustin, that the Cubs have had 1 hit and that solo hit was a home run? Well, we have that info for you right here. Boom. This is Chris Antonacci, who's a great follow on Twitter. It happened in 1950 with Moose Morin. April 16, 1960. It happened August 21st, 2021, Patrick Wisdom. And it happened on Tuesday night, Alex Bregman. 1 hit, and that hit was a home run. So not normal. The one bright spot, though, Dustin, offensively, and you said this about the rest, Alex Bregman, he came into the night slashing 160, 300, 200. He had 2 extra base hits over his past 14 games. But this is the same thing like with Mo Baller. He had a 44% high hit rate coming in, which is above his career average of 38%, and it's higher than the MLB average, 37%. So, he's just one of those guys over the last few years that has been able to hit with power. And Marquis put this up here. When you look at the most home runs at third base, and this is since the start of the 2022 regular season, Eugenio Suarez, 130, Austin Riley, 115, the great Jose Ramirez from Cleveland, 111, Manny Machado, 104. But Bregman is on this list, tied with Max Muncy. Those are big boppers on there. So, I know that, Bregman's a slow starter, but he definitely needs to kind of turn the corner here.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got to turn the corner. It's a great point by you, Crawley, about turning the corner. All right, what do we want to do next? Get into the PCA catch?
Well, key number 2, Colin Ray needs to watch out for. We said this on our preview, right? Look out for Colin Ray. Or we said, look out for Mike Yastrzemski. That's what we said on the last episode. Look out for Mike Yastrzemski. He hits Colin Ray. That's why we do this when we do these kind of, the pitching matchups and all that stuff. Yastrzemski had been struggling mightily as a Brave this season, slashing 200, 264, 252 with 6 RBIs and 115 at bats entering Tuesday's night's game. What does he do against Colin Ray? 2 for 2, hits his first home run of the year, and he doubles his RBI total. Bottom of the third, Dominic Smith, who is a former Cub, actually. He was in spring training with the Cubs a few years back. Went 4 for 4 in the game. Singles advanced to second on a ground out. Scores on a Yastrzemski single to put the Cubs up 1-0. Cubs would take the lead in the fourth. In the bottom of the fifth, Austin Riley tied it with a leadoff home run. Dominic Smith would single, and Yastrzemski would hit a 2-run homer to put the Braves back on top. They would score on a 1-out single by Matt Olson to make it a 5-2, and that's how this would end. Dustin, it wasn't a big key in the game, but I just always like to bring it up. I call him 5-star Pete. Even though the Cubs lost, Pete Crow Armstrong had an amazing catch in the bottom of the second. Austin Riley hits 102 off the bat, goes 386 feet to right center. Pete makes an unbelievable catch off the wall. The expecting batting average on that ball normally is 760. It would have been a home run in 4 parks. Again, regardless of what he does at the plate, Pete is must-see TV when playing defense. He leads all outfielders in outfield catch probability with 10 outs above average. So again, if he get any offense he gives you is just gravy, but just to watch this kid play in the outfield, to me, is just it's such a pleasure. I've never seen an outfielder in my lifetime with the Cubs as good as PCA, not even close.
Yeah, it was an amazing catch, and both Pat and Ron and the TV crew, your guy Alex Cohen, they both had very, very good calls on that home run. Cohen called him PC awesome with that catch. It was a great catch. It was one of those ones you jump off the couch or wherever you're consuming that game. It was really, really good. All right, game number 2, and this was the game last night. This was the Shota Imanaga game, and this was the game that you and I felt the best about because they were going up against a young guy who walks more guys than he strikes out. He's going to be a good player, but he's just got a ways to go because he's a young guy. I think he's their number 2 prospect in the Braves organization right now.
Yeah, again, they knock him out early, not able to do anything. But I've said it once, I'll say it again. Shota is clearly the ace of this Cubs staff. And if he continues it up, he's going to be an all-star, right? Against one of the best hitting staffs in baseball. Shota kept the Braves hitters off balance. Not only were the Braves at nearly at the top at every offensive category, they're also one of the baseball's best clubs against left-handed pitching. They averaged 270 against lefties. And so, Shota went 7 innings, gave up 2 runs, 1 after he exited the game, 5 hits, no walks, and 6 Ks. He gave up a solo home run in the 4th to last year's Rookie of the Year, Drake Baldwin. But Dustin, the pitch was a good pitch. It was like low and away, and Drake Baldwin's just a big, strong kid. He swung down and got it. The defense, for the most part, was pretty good, turning a couple double plays in the 3rd and 4th.
Yeah, Shota got out of a couple of jams, right? He got out of a couple of jams.
Yeah, and so when I take a look at this, he cracked right now MLB's WAR pitchers for the best WAR. He is right behind Paul Skeens at 1.6. You look at this name of the guys that are on here. You got Cam Schlitter, Dylan Cease, Chris Sanchez, Max Fried, Jacob Mizorowski's doing some sick stuff. Davis Martin, who we're going to see this weekend at the South Side.
That's not a treat right there. That's not a treat. He's playing really good.
Yeah, but it's just unbelievable. But key number 2 to this game, another Maton meltdown. Shota was on the mound in the 8th facing lefty Michael Harris. Harris hits a broken bat single. He's busting it down the line. Nico tried to do that glove scoop throw, but the ball goes over Michael Bush's head. He was credited with the single, but maybe Nico had a little more time, but I'm not going to rag on him that much. But that's it for Shota. In comes Phil Maton, and we mentioned he was doing pretty good.
Why?
Dustin
Crowley, if this was a playoff game and you had Shota in a playoff game in a 1-1 tie with a guy on, are you going to Phil Maton? No. Who are you going to? You're going to Palencia, right? I'm saying based on
you don't have a lead.
Right
it's
now,
a tie game.
You're going to. I don't. But you got to go to Palencia. You got to keep it a tie game. You got to keep it a tie game. When your offense is broke, you've got to keep it a tie game, in my opinion. This had me absolutely fuming and dropping words that my kids don't like me saying in the house. They think something's really wrong.
All I can tell you is that
you were okay with it. You were okay with it.
Look, this is what you paid the guy. This was your big get.
Well, it's a bad investment. You don't have to rub Carter and Jed's nose in it that they made a bad investment. It happens.
I mean, you know what we are as far as injuries and all the guys that are out.
I'm aware.
It is what it is, man. You can't just keep saying Daniel Palencia. I mean, it's someone else has got to step up. And up until then, he held the opposition scoreless in the previous 5 appearances. He just sucked on Wednesday night. That's it.
Who were the I'd like to go back and see who those people were that he held down.
He held the Rangers down. He's held good teams down. It wasn't just nobody, but now
you got what I'm saying. I mean, I just felt bad that Shota pitched his ass off, and that's what happened.
I have no doubt about that. I'm just telling you, you got guys, and they're gonna struggle right now. Unfortunately, with Maton, there's nowhere to hide him. You got to play him. It just is what it is. I mean, how many guys can you hide? And like I said, Palencia is just coming back off an injury. They're still not going back to back with him. So
sounds like a song, Crowley. Nowhere to run to, baby. Nowhere to hide.
Right. And Walt Weiss is going to call Mike Yastrzemski to pinch hit. Maton leaves an 84-mile-per-hour sweeper right over the plate. Yaz hits a double. Harris comes up to score. Cubs now trail 2-1. Next batter, Mauricio Dubon. He's not even a power hitter. Maton hangs a curveball. Dubon deposits in left field, and the Cubs trail 4-1. That would be the final. But Dustin, key number 3, the offense continues to be MIA. You can complain about Phil Maton all you want. One run isn't going to win you a lot of games. And
no,
for a second night,
but the point maybe they get out of that inning, and that maybe motivates some people. That's all I'm saying.
Maybe, but for the second night in a row,
now you're out of gas. My point is now you just feel defeated, right? There's no chance you're coming back for that. The way the Cubs offense, the form that the Cubs offense is in, you're just not coming back from that.
Again, there's not much you can do when you can't score runs. Period. Were you confident? Were you confident?
I'm not going to argue that. I mean, listen, you're not going to win games by scoring 1 run. You're not going to win 2 games by having 5 damn hits between 2 games, right? I mean, it's just not going to happen. Here we go. Right, key number 3, right? The offense continues to be MIA.
Yeah, and second night, they got the Braves starter out before the 5th, and like the night before, the Braves bullpen shut them down. When you look at that, Kelly and Robert Suarez and Iglesias, I mean, it's just sick. It's just, good night, really, Also, Dustin can't get the big hit. 3rd inning, 1 out. PCA walk, steals 2nd, stranded. Top of the 4th, 1 out. Alex Bregman singles, Ian Happ walks. Seiya and Bush strike out. Cubs finally break through in the 5th. Carson Kelly leadoff single. PCA grounds out. Dansby walks, runners at 1st and 2nd. Starter J.R. Ritchie's out. Tyler Kinley in. Birthday boy Nico Horner singles. Kelly scores. Cubs tied at 1. Moises just misses 1. Hits a deep fly ball out. Runners advance to 2nd and 3rd. Bregman grounds out. And so it's just this constant theme that we kind of keep running in with this losing streak with the runners in scoring position. And right now, Dustin, it's just a mess. Marquis put this graphic up the other after the game last night during the skid. You're taking a look at this. I mean, this is just a disaster. In this losing streak, the Cubs have been shut out twice and are 1 for 27 with runners in scoring position. And that's where we're frustrated right now. And, we got another game tonight against Chris Sale, another former Southsider. And so hopefully the Cubs can turn it around. But, not only, you're scared because of the way things are kind of shaping up. And now you got a red hot White Sox team that the Cubs are going to have to come home to. And so they better figure out a way to get it done tonight. Otherwise they're going to have a 5-game losing streak.
Right. So it could be a 5-game losing streak for the Cubs and a 5-game winning streak for the Sox. The Saturday night game, and just a little programming note, I will be Zach Zaidman, not calling any play-by-play. Don't worry about that. But I'm going to be doing the pre and the post over at the rate, 35th and Shields. Here I come. I've not been there, Crowley, and I don't know how long. I'm trying to remember the last time I was at the rate. And it's not terrible. Like, the food's good, the beer's cold. but I have not been there in a long time. And I haven't been there to work in even longer. I mean, the last time I worked there, I think it was still one-on-one sports or sporting news radio, long time ago. So, it's going to be
hopefully
fun.
you bring home the win. Hopefully you bring home the win.
Yeah. that game on Saturday is standing room only right now. Standing room only.
All right.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast. We are part of the Blue Wire Network. This episode, it's number 361. The Cubs offense has absolutely disappeared. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. 5-star review, you'll take it. Email us. Sure, email Crowley's Clubhouse, gmail.com. Watch us, as you might be right now, Crowley's Clubhouse on the YouTube page, joining us to preview the Crosstown Classic on the South Side. We're just talking about it. Got Josh Nelson from the Sox Machine podcast. If you're a Sox fan, this is can't miss stuff. We have the guys from the Sox Machine on Mully and Haw every once in a while, and Josh is kind enough to join us on the Fly the W podcast. Josh, how are you?
I'm doing well. This Crosstown Classic at the beginning part of this year was just another series from a White Sox perspective, but boy, have things radically changed in the last week.
We got some juice, Josh. We got some juice.
Definitely some juice. As you mentioned, Dustin, like Friday and Saturday, completely sold out. Also causing some issues for Cubs fans coming to the South Side. The 35th Street is closed. So you can't go down 35th. If you are driving, if you want to tailgate, you have to get off the highway at 31st. If you are coming west, Pershing is a complete mess right now because of road construction, and 37th does not connect anymore from Halstead all the way to the stadium because of road construction. So expect a lot of congestion. If you can, either ride share or take the red line to the stadium. I'm being nice here. I'm giving that PSA early. It's going to be congested getting to Rate Field this weekend.
I was just going to say, you sound like a public service announcement for riding public transportation, ride your bike or something, but that is good. That is good intel. And I don't know if you caught it, but I am going to be down there on Saturday working on the radio side of things. So thanks for the tip. I have no idea how I'm going to get there. Hopefully Waze can get me there.
I can tell you, I went last year. I did a traditional red line doubleheader. We caught the Cubs Brewers, and then we took the red line and went down to go see the Cardinals versus the White Sox.
Wow.
And it was a blast, man. 18 innings of baseball. It was a lot of fun. I like guaranteed rate field. I think it's a beautiful ballpark to catch a game. And it's always got some energy. And like we talked about, a little bit of juice here. But I got to ask you, Josh, I met Will Venable a few years back at Cubs spring training and got to talk to him. And it was clear back then that this guy was groomed to be a manager one day. And when he took the Sox job, it was like, ooh, is this the one you want to take, buddy? But something's happening at 35th and Shields. What does Will Venable bring into this team?
He told us in the winter meetings when he was first hired that his leadership style is leading by empathy. So he's not a fire and brimstone type of manager, which you would think from a White Sox perspective, is that really the direction that you want to go? I mean, this is an organization that'll be honoring Ozzie Guillen this summer by retiring his number. And Ozzie definitely brought the fire if you cross paths with him, or if he didn't like the way that you were playing in a certain way. But with Will Venable, he's brought in a kind of a loose atmosphere, allowing these pretty much kids. I mean, the White Sox are starting so many players under the age of 26, and they are one of the youngest teams in all of Major League Baseball. And it's allowed all of these young players to grow up together, learn from those mistakes, understand that even if they do make a mistake on the field, that it's a learning experience. It's not something that they're going to get benched for. And allows them to be a little bit more aggressive with their play. And all of a sudden, especially in the last week, guys, you are starting to hear a lot more confidence, especially when Colson Montgomery speaks and Chase Mydroth is talking to the media after the game. They are really buying in what they have been doing, especially in the last 35 games. This is a team that started 1-5 this season. And for them to climb back and be at 500 for the first time since the end of the 2022 season, that's a lot. And I give Will Venable a lot of credit for being steady. He is not too high and he's not too low. And even with this recent play, he's trying to downplay of this recent success and say, we're still trying to focus on the daily tasks and try to get better every single day. We're not looking ahead to proclaim that we're going to be AL Central division contenders this year, or we think we're a playoff team. He constantly says the same thing after every game and before every game meeting with the press. And I'm sure he'll be asked in a few minutes here before his pregame media session with the beat reporters. We're focused on today. We're not looking ahead to this weekend against the Cubs. We have a long way to go to get better and where we want to go. And I think that calming presence has been a breath of fresh air for this White Sox organization.
I think you're 100% right with what you're saying, Josh. I know you know the White Sox as well as anybody else, but I have to follow up now based on what you just said. I'm listening closely. I am jacked about this series. That's not going to be any big shock. But Scott Merkin had a really good piece about Cubs and Sox, and one of the Sox players you mentioned said, it's going to be freaking awesome. Bring them on. Bring the Cubs on. And I just wonder if they are maybe looking ahead a little bit. And is that the type of thing? These games against the Royals, they all count the same overall, but these are divisional games. And right now the AL Central is kind of up for grabs. So is that poking the bear a little bit? Is that looking ahead, or it's just a young player being asked a question and being honest?
That quote came from Colson Montgomery, and I think Montgomery's ready, and he's one of the leaders clearly of this White Sox team, and he wants everyone to buy into the fact that we can play just as well as the Chicago Cubs. It is one thing with the Kansas City Royals, and you're absolutely right, division rival. The White Sox in 2024 and in 2025 were combined 4-22 against Kansas City. They are 4-2 this year. So the fact that they have already matched their win total against the Royals the last two seasons
absolutely amazing.
Forward. But I think they want that challenge now because it's really difficult to not look ahead and see that they have a key divisional week coming up in which they play against the Minnesota Twins and the Detroit Tigers for 9 consecutive games. That's a tough stretch. The White Sox are going to have what the Cubs are dealing with right now, in which they have to play Atlanta, the Dodgers, and then go to Yankee Stadium. So that's an incredibly difficult 9-game stretch coming in June. But I think they're ready for a challenge. And for the White Sox perspective, this weekend is a proving ground. How good are we? Can we contend? And if there is a way that they can win one game or maybe even win this series against the Chicago Cubs, I just think that's going to fuel more confidence into this team. And they're going to really start buying that, we're not just a 500 team. We believe that we can make the postseason this year.
Now, I got to tell you, one of the big things, that there's a lot of turnover with this Sox team, like Luis Robert gone, like kind of one of those last of the last pieces. And there's a lot of little good moves. Sir Anthony Dominguez, I don't know why the Cubs didn't get him. Luis Angel Acuna, the trade. But obviously the one that everybody's talking about, and I think something that Cubs fans are going to be very interested in when they go into the South Side, is taking a look at Munetaka Murakami. I mean, the Cubs have had their share of Japanese players as well, but this guy seems to be a lot of fun, and it looks like there's a lot of MLB teams kicking themselves in the ass for not signing this guy.
Yeah, the story is fascinating because during the spring training media day, the assistant general manager of the Chicago White Sox, Josh Barfield, explained that the story was like 3 days before the deadline, the White Sox made their proposal official, 2 years and $34 million. 2 days later, so the day before the deadline, they're asked if they can jump on a Zoom call with Munetaka Murakami as he's in Tokyo. And then a couple of days later, the deal's done. Like, this wasn't some months and months of courtship. This was kind of a Hail Mary offer the White Sox made. And according to Munetaka Murakami, it was the best deal available. And to your point, now here we are in the middle of May, and everyone's like, no, Mooney was definitely worth the 5 years, $80 million, or maybe even up to $100 million. His profile is very similar to Kyle Schwarber. Yeah, it's a lot of strikeouts, but he draws a lot of walks, and that power is absolutely legit. And it's a difference maker for this White Sox team. And with the way that Colson Montgomery has been hitting, and now Miguel Vargas has been hitting, it is plausible that the White Sox with Murakami, Montgomery, and Vargas have 3 hitters in their lineup that could hit 30 or more home runs this year. And that has been a long time since the White Sox have been able to hit for that type of power. Now, what about the other 6 guys? I mean, that is a very good question. And where else can the White Sox gain power? We just received word that catcher Kyle Teal will not be available for the White Sox this weekend against the Chicago Cubs, and most likely will be rejoining the team next week as he needs a little bit more time rehabbing his hamstring down in Charlotte. But this team will continue to get better. Murakami, it's funny to say, he did not play on very good teams in Japan. So to be on a losing team is nothing new for him. But the way that he's been starting and the way that he just wants to prove everybody in Major League Baseball wrong, he's got a big chip on his shoulder, and he's joined an organization that always has a big chip on their shoulder. And now this team is winning. I'm curious to see where Murakami takes his play moving forward.
Yeah, great point, Josh. Somebody the White Sox are going to have is their really, really good starting pitcher Saturday night. And Grant Taylor is going to be starting in that contest. I believe it's Jamison Tyone going for the Cubs opposite of him on Saturday night. We'll get to that in a minute. It doesn't matter. It's not really the point. Were you as offended as Chuck Garfien was that Sports Talk Radio was talking about, are the White Sox going to have to trade Grant Taylor to get some, they've got a chip here, load up on some prospects, but you want them, to me, you hold on to them now, but I understand why we were having that conversation earlier. He's been awfully good. I mean, right now, he's definitely the all-star. He's your ace of your staff. I mean, he's been really, really good.
Yeah, Grant Taylor, and then there's Davis Martin. I think Davis is going to start on Saturday.
Oh, sorry, Davis Martin will start Saturday, right? But we'll see Grant Taylor for sure.
Yes. The Cubs will definitely see Grant Taylor. And yeah, there's been a lot of conversation internally about what the future holds for Grant Taylor. What's interesting about Davis Martin, I don't think anyone saw this level of production, maybe not even Davis, but what's fascinating about him is that in the world of advanced planning, pregame planning, and analytics, he always looks at that stuff. But he's one that he wants to go with the flow. If he knows in the first 2 innings that a pitch is not working, let's scrap it. We're not throwing that anymore. He'll work with the catcher and just say, we're not throwing this anymore. But lately, especially against right-handed batters, this slider that Davis Martin has been featuring for a strikeout pitch has been lethal. I don't think any of us thought that he was a 10 strikeout in a game type of pitcher, accomplished that in his next start, 9 strikeouts. It's one thing for him to eat innings. It's another thing to effectively pile up a bunch of strikeouts. And he's throwing 6 different pitches, and he's throwing this 97 mile per hour 4-seamer, and he's got this incredible kick change that could be 90 to 93 miles an hour. He is going to throw the entire kitchen sink at the Chicago Cubs. And when people bring up the whole trade aspect of Davis Martin, I don't think he's going to get dealt because he's cheap, Dustin. The White Sox. Yeah. Jerry Reinsdorf. He hasn't hit arbitration yet. Why would I trade him?
He is cheap. Yeah. Good point.
So
Good
I
point.
think I think for Cubs fans, what to expect against Davis Martin, especially the Cubs hitters themselves, that it's going to be difficult to really focus on one pitch coming into that game. I think they're going to have it's the whole sports analogy, a boxing match in which you kind of have to feel out what Davis wants to throw at you early. It will be key in that second and third time through the order if they could really focus on one particular pitch that they want to jump Davis Martin. If it is that fastball, or if he just doesn't have the slider, if he hangs a slider, can we make Davis pay? But he's been fantastic, and we'll see if Grant Taylor piggies back on Davis Martin. Taylor, he might open in this series. I doubt it. I think they're gaining more confidence that Eric Fedde will start on Sunday, but Grant Taylor in any high leverage situation this series is going to be the first reliever coming out of the bullpen for the White Sox.
Well, I'm looking, and you know the old saying. Sometimes it's not who you play; it's when you play them. I mean, the White Sox took 2 or 3 from the Mariners in the last week. They're going for the sweep against Kansas City. And on the flip side, the Cubs won 10 straight game on Friday. Their 10 straight game, and then they lose the next 2 to Texas, and now they're looking to get swept in Atlanta. And I'm taking a look right here. In the last week, the Cubs have 0 players hitting over 300 in the last week. Alex Bregman closest at 294. The White Sox have Miguel Vargas, Sam Antonacci, and Tristan Peters all hitting over 300. And again, there may be some Cub fans. I know I saw Sam Antonacci play for in the World Baseball Classic, but there are a lot of guys on this team that have talent that Cubs fans may not recognize.
Yeah, you're going to see, it feels like the White Sox offense is 2 versions. When you get to the top of the order and the middle of the order, you have to be fearful of the power because, again, Vargas, Montgomery, and Murakami, they've been hitting for power. The bottom of the order, chaos. You're going to see bunting. You're going to see incredibly aggressive base running, almost to the point of being like too aggressive and getting themselves thrown out. If there's a runner on third and there's 1 out, maybe even 2 outs, and you see Tristan Peters batting and he's going to be batting 8th or 9th in this lineup, he's bunting. He is bunting. So Bregman has to come in and play in. And if they're not effective there, then all of a sudden Murakami awaits. And now you got to play a different style of defense. They're putting a lot of pressure on opposing infields. And that's going to be something that the Chicago Cubs have to be mindful of, is that you cannot relax, especially in the bottom part of the order of the White Sox, because they will suddenly play small ball. It'll be confusing because they're playing for the home run with the middle of the order, but in the bottom of the lineup, they're not afraid. Hit and runs, bunts, whatever it takes to get on base, whatever it takes to steal second, and just try to generate as much chaos as possible. And there is nobody that generates more chaos in this White Sox team than Sam Antonacci. His walk-up song is Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. And I cannot think of a better walk-up song for a player like Sam Antonacci.
Well, speaking of that, how about Jared Kelnick last night? This was something that bothered me, right, to your point. So he has the easy double, but he stretches it, tries to get a triple, is throwing out at third, gets credit for a double, and then, he put the ball on the grass, so he gets the 2 driven in. But then after the game, he says that he was being extra aggressive because he wanted to make sure that the runner scored before he made that out. And I know that's also something that I heard Steve Stone say on the station, talking about that Will Venable has stressed about, being aggressive, taking a turn from first. Think you're always going to get a double, or if it's a double, think you're going to get a triple. And this is getting a mindset, and they're building a culture over there. And these young guys sound like they're all pulling in the same direction. So that's got to be exciting. And I know, Josh, you're not just a fan. You're part of the media. You're covering the team, but you were a fan first. And after going through all these really tough 100+ loss seasons, this has got to excite your base.
Yeah, the White Sox fans absolutely love Sam Antonacci. They love Chase Maidra. These guys are grinders. Ozzie Guillen would have loved these two on the 2005 team. I mean, if you teleported Chase Maidra and Sam Antonacci and they were the 2005 Chicago White Sox, they'd be legends like Joe Creedy is, where a lot of people outside of Chicago don't know who Joe Creedy is, but Joe Creedy never has to buy a drink in Bridgeport for the rest of his life. And it is this type of style that they are grooming down in the minor leagues. And Antonacci was part of those Birmingham Barons teams that have won back-to-back championships in AA. And yeah, if you don't have the 30+ home run type of power in your bag, you need to bring something as a position player to the White Sox to merit playing time, whether that is being an incredible defensive player like Derek Hill, and even surprising a lot of folks, including myself, and being an effective pinch hitter against lefty relievers late in the game, or just Sam Antonacci, career infielder, but he's like, I have the athleticism, I'll try playing left field. And he's not Andrew Vaughn. He's not Gavin Sheets out there. He makes good defensive plays in left field, and he's still learning on the fly. So I think it's just this type of heads up play that Antonacci might drop. They know they're not 30 home run guys, but they're going to do whatever it takes to get on base and cause chaos. And when they're on base and all of a sudden you got Murakami and Vargas and Montgomery coming up for the White Sox, that's when White Sox fans have been really excited, because this is when the offense clicks. And that's why they've been pretty consistent lately, scoring 5-6 runs a game.
So, Josh, we got 3 at the South Side. Friday, 6:40 Central. Sean Burke, righty, versus Edward Cabrera. Now, Cabrera's been struggling lately. He had his worst start the other day against the Rangers, gave up 5 runs on 7 hits. But, he just hasn't, Cub fans, I think, were hoping for a little bit more, and it really hasn't happened just yet, hoping that it happens this weekend. But tell us a little bit about Sean Burke.
So Sean has been... his fastball velocity hasn't been where it's been at the last couple of years. In the past, he's been like a 97, 98 type of guy. Lately, it's been 94, 95. Now, he does have a good curveball, and when he's on, he's placing that fastball where he wants to. When he's off, it just seems like the pitch is right down the middle where he can't find the corners. He was supposed to start on Thursday tonight against the Kansas City Royals, but Will Venable made the executive decision to swap Sean Burke for Anthony Kay tonight. So you'd rather have Anthony Kay, who is getting better, but can also give up home runs. Anthony Kay struggles against right-handed hitters. And I'm curious on how he'll fare tonight against the Royals. But Venable seems more confident having Sean Burke go up against this more advanced lineup with the Chicago Cubs. So I would expect from a Cubs fan perspective, if Sean Burke can place his fastball, I think that's going to be the key pitch. If I was the Cubs hitting coach, I would tell every Cubs hitter, get ready for the fastball. Focus on the fastball and maybe even try to attack it early in the count, because the more pitches that you rack up with Sean Burke, he's not like Davis Smart. I don't think he goes 6 or 7 innings. If he does go 6 or 7 innings for the White Sox on Friday, that's not going to be good news for the Chicago Cubs for the weekend.
I can just tell you, Anthony Kay, former Cubs farmhand. He was with the Cubs for a little while. Yeah. We talked a little bit about Davis Martin and that kid. I mean, what do you think it is? He's going against Jameson Taillon, which scares the bejesus out of me just because Jameson has had trouble with the long ball. And when you think about the bandbox at his guaranteed rate field, and it's going to be like, 80 degrees on Saturday?
Yeah.
This is a bad recipe right here. But I mean, you talked about it a little bit earlier. Davis Martin, when you look at his career numbers, I mean, yeah, but then all of a sudden this year it's just clicking. And what is it this year do you think has changed?
I just think it's the supreme confidence in his arsenal and just the way that he has his flow and freedom from the White Sox coaches to attack hitters the way that he wants to, that it's not so dedicated to the pregame worksheet. It's not like he's pitching for the Miami Marlins where they're calling pitches from the dugout. That he is in control and he understands his stuff better than ever. His stuff is working, and he's got a good working relationship with the White Sox catchers, both Edgar Caro and Drew Romo right now. But for me, the right hand, so the lefties cannot hit this changeup. So Pete Crow Armstrong, I wish you the best of luck, man. If you get behind, the changeup is coming. But for the righties in this lineup, they're really going to have to not get in counts where this slider is coming. And he doesn't throw the slider that often, but it's so tough, as you guys know, that when you are hitting and you know the pitcher is going to throw 96, 97 at you with a four-seamer, and he's willing to throw that pitch at you with 2 strikes, but this slider just is so effective and just dips right out of the corner at the last second. It's so much plate that hitters have to cover right now for the Chicago Cubs and for any opposing team. So that's what I'm going to be interested in, is how the Chicago Cubs attack Davis Martin. Maybe the best strategy is swinging early against Davis Martin. I haven't seen too many teams attempt that type of game plan against Davis.
And then Sunday, 1:10 p.m., Colin Ray versus Eric Fetty. Colin Ray's had a couple bad starts but against the Dodgers and Braves, against some pretty good teams. Not to dismiss the White Sox, but again, the Braves and the Dodgers are kind of like the creme de la creme. But Eric Fetty is a familiar face, and I feel like this is the Cubs' best chance. But again, every year is different. But Fetty's 0-3 lifetime against the Cubs with an 8.54 ERA, and they scored 10 runs against him in 5 innings last year. And I think Michael Busch is someone that I'm really kind of like my key to, my pick to click on this one on Sunday. But Eric Fetty, second time around with the White Sox. What are they able to unlock with him?
So with Brian Bannister, the second pitch that Eric Fetty threw at spring training, just even warming up, Bannister pulled him off to the side and said, "Hey, you're not doing this." And it was just that his body wasn't coming off the back hip. He wasn't in motion and rhythm. He's just all out of sorts from what he was with the White Sox. He makes that alignment, body alignment, being more composed, more balanced. And now he's throwing like he did when he was originally with the White Sox. So I give a lot of credit to Brian Bannister early, helping Eric Fetty at least be very serviceable for the White Sox. In this Sunday start, Eric Fetty has been suspectable. You could hit home runs off of Eric Fetty is what I'm trying to say. He gave up 2 homers to the Kansas City Royals early in his last start. He's been more dependent on the sweeper. So for the righties in this lineup, expect the sweeper. The 94-mile-per-hour sinker can be effective at times, but it can also find itself over the middle of the plate, and that gets Eric Fetty into trouble. But the guy's been a gamer. Even though if he gives up a couple home runs early, the White Sox have been confident in keeping him out there at least for 5 innings. So those are the 2 pitches. If I was a Cubs hitter and even a Cubs fan watching this game, is how well Eric Fetty is placing his 94-mile-per-hour sinker, and how many times he could throw the sweeper just in general, because it's not a pitch that gets ahead of hitters. But if he does get ahead of in the count, opposing hitters are not hitting that sweeper all that well this year. And that's where he really wants to go with his arsenal against opposing hitters. That'll be the focus on Sunday from a Cubs perspective.
Well, Josh, we're going to make our predictions.
Go ahead. I was going to say the same thing, Crowley.
We're going to make our predictions right now here. We're going to let Dustin go first. He's going to be our lucky charm at the rate on Saturday. Dustin, how do you see this series playing out?
2 out of 3. 2 out of 3. Unfortunately, I think they lose the game that I'm going to go to on Saturday night. Wondering if we have a little rain delay theater in that one as well. But I think, Sunday is going to be a ton of scoring, and I think Cabrera is going to bounce back. I think the Cubs are going to come back to town, hopefully pissed off, because I expect they get swept. They got Sale tonight, as I'm sure you're aware, Josh, of that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to say 2 out of 3.
Josh, what do you got?
I'm going to agree. The Cubs should win 2 out of 3. Let me say that. The Cubs
should
win the
right?
series.
They should win, right?
They are the stronger team. If the White Sox win on Friday and they know that Davis is going on Saturday, I'll be curious to see in how the Cubs respond and how they attack Davis Martin. But they should be favored to win on Sunday. That's the game that I'm most confident in the Cubs winning in this series. Well, Eric Fetty, good luck, buddy. I mean, this is a tough lineup. The Cubs play excellent defense as well. The Cubs should win this series, but it would be a lot closer than I think people are expecting.
I'm going 2 of 3 also, just because I don't want to lose my Cubs card if I pick the White Sox. But I am very nervous at this point with how well the White Sox are playing and how poorly the Cubs are playing. It's just a bad time to meet up, and I think I still have PTSD from 1999, I believe it was, when all of a sudden the Cubs were rolling and the White Sox swept them, and the Cubs season just went. So I'm still going Cubs 2 out of 3. But I am very nervous just because I think that the Cubs are a better team right now. But I think that the White Sox are catching the Cubs at the right time. Josh, we appreciate you jumping on so much. Where can our listeners find your work, and where are you on the socials?
Yeah, you can read and watch everything that we do on SoxMachine.com. We've been doing a lot of post-game videos as well. So if you want to hear the comments from both the players and the managers, you can check out those videos as the White Sox are at home on our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Sox Machine. And we're on all the social media platforms at Sox Machine.
Well, we appreciate you jumping on, buddy, and we'll see you when you guys come to the north side. All right.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks, Josh. Josh, a really great guy, Crowley. Thank him for his time. If you just joined us, you're listening to the Fly the W podcast. It's episode 361. The Cubs offense has disappeared. Crowley saved his Cubs fandom card by not going against the Cubs in this series. Crowley and I both say 2 out of 3. Josh says 2 out of 3 for the Cubs too. And now I'm extra nervous, Crowley. Now I'm extra nervous. And I think Josh was right. I think the series hinges on the Friday night game over at the rate. You want to get into some standings, or you want to do some power rankings? Where do you want to go to?
We got a little bit of everything. We can take a look at the standings, just because anytime the Cubs are in the first place, I'd like to see that. They are in first place, but they've lost 4 in a row, 6-4 in their last 10. The Brewers are back to life. Thank God Gavin Sheets, who Josh talked about, hit that home run against the Brewers yesterday to keep them 2.5 back. Cardinals, Pittsburgh, and the Reds, every team in the NL Central still over 500. When you talk about the power rankings, these came out Monday. Remember, the Cubs were just coming off that 10-game win streak. They had the Cubs in first, Braves in second, Dodgers third, Yankees fourth, Rays fifth, Brewers sixth, Padres 7th, Cardinals 8th, Pirates 9th, and A's 10th. But you still have 4 NL Central teams in the top 10 power rankings by MLB. Obviously, the Cubs are going to be dropping a whole bunch once.
Ooh,
well, hopefully not too much by the time we get to the weekend.
Like the Hindenburg.
Hopefully not too much. We do have some roster moves. Caleb Thielbar, left hamstring. He threw on yesterday on May 13th in Atlanta. Everything went well. So the Cubs are going to be scheduling Thielbar's rehab appearance this weekend, whether he goes to Tennessee or Iowa. But we talked about, Phil Mayton. When Caleb Thielbar comes back, I will feel so much better.
That cannot happen soon enough.
No, it cannot happen soon enough. And hopefully, like I said, right now, the only guy I 100% trust is Hobie Milner. I don't feel like Daniel Palencia is 100% yet. Right now, if you told me, who do you trust to get 3 outs? It's Hobie Milner. That's who you got. Nobody else. If Caleb Thielbar comes back
that's very sad. By the way, that's sad. It's a sad state of affairs.
It's also a team that's dealing again with a ton of injuries. These are guys that are when you talk about losing Thielbar. Riley Martin was pitching well. Hunter Harvey. We haven't even he's God knows when we'll see him. We may not even see him again. To be honest with you, this is a guy that's had such an injury history. So, this is not the bullpen that they were expecting to be rolling out. It's the one they got, unfortunately.
Yep, absolutely right on that, Crowley. No doubt about that.
The Cubs did try to add some depth by signing former White Sox. How apropos is this with the Crosstown Classic?
Pretty interesting, the time of this, right? Mm-hmm.
A little Liam Hendricks. Here's what Craig Counsell had to say on Hendricks.
Yeah, we signed Liam. He's going to go to Arizona for a while, then ramp up, and then, as soon as we can get him to a place where he's ready to compete, he'll go to, likely in Iowa, and, then just progress from there. It's essentially just depth right now and taking a shot at somebody who's had a lot of success and see what happens. But he's going to have a ways to build up.
Yeah. Is that the best way to characterize it? If you guys are taking a shot with him,
this is a release player, and right now at this point in his career, and he was ready to sign and had some interest, and so he's going to get a shot.
How about that? He had some interest. Almost sounds like he called them.
Who knows? It's at the point right now where you've seen some moves this last week. Liam Hendricks, the Cubs got Tyler Ferguson from the A's for cash, just paid him some cash. But at this point, Dustin, this goes to where you're talking about the state of the bullpen right now, is that they're hoping for a miracle, and it's happened in the past. A couple of years ago, Tyson Miller was that guy. Last year, Drew Pomerantz. Nobody thought Drew Pomerantz was going to be anything. Turned out to be one of the most important guys in the bullpen last year. So they're going to roll the dice. Now, Liam Hendricks isn't anywhere near ready to pitch. He obviously beat cancer, which good on him, and had some other injuries. But he's hopefully a guy. He's been in the big moments, right? He's been in the big moments, and you just hope that somehow, some way, health comes back to him and you catch lightning in a bottle. That's what you're doing with these Tyler Ferguson, Liam Hendricks type signings. You're just praying to God that someone somewhere is going to give you a season you didn't expect, because it looked like, oh, Riley Martin looked like one of those guys, and then he gets injured. It just, you don't have anybody right now. You need a miracle with all these injuries, and they don't have it right now. So that's kind of the frustrating thing. So hopefully it's Hendricks, hopefully it's Ferguson, hopefully it's somebody, but it needs to be quickly, because I don't trust, probably this bullpen is the thing I trust the least right now. And that's because of what, think about it. You lost Colin Ray out of the bullpen. You've lost Ben Brown out of the bullpen. These are guys, Dustin, when you had that win streak, these were guys that you depended on.
Yeah.
Right. Yep. Like Ben Brown was the one that put out how many fires? If you'd have told me last night it's a 1-1 game, I think Ben Brown goes 2, maybe 3 innings in that situation. He's not available because he's pitching today against Chris Sale. So the bullpen, just by the injuries in the bullpen and the injuries to the starters, you know, when you have Javier Assad comes in, he's coming in for 3, maybe 4 innings. He's not going to be available for a few days once he throws those pitches. So it's slim pickings down there. So that's why, again, when you say Phil Maton, when you say Jacob Webb, these are not guys that would be the first, you know, in that situation that Craig would say, this is who I would preferably call out there. It's who he's got. And that's where we're at.
Yep. No doubt about that. All right. You got a little nugget for everybody on MLB attendance so far?
Yeah, with MLB attendance, it's been interesting just kind of taking a look at the numbers for 2026 as far as the percentage right here, stadium capacity so far. The Cubs are at about 79-80%, which I'm not shocked with just because of the weather at the beginning of the season. There were some miserably cold games. But I got a feeling the Cubs will be back up where they normally are, which are the top 5. But if you take a look, you got the Padres have been jam-packed, the Blue Jays coming off the World Series, the Dodgers, of course, the Red Sox. The Phillies at 90% is a little bit surprising considering the season they've had so far, but the White Sox at 43%. But, you know, the tickets on the secondary market for this weekend series are nuts. And if they keep playing like they're playing, that's going to go up. Dustin, we did have some frustrating news. We talked about Kyle Hendricks going to the Tigers. What about Jason Hayward, his old teammate, signing for a front office job with the LA Dodgers? I mean, Dustin, this is the 10-year anniversary. This is supposed to be the big hoopla. And all of a sudden, well, Kyle Hendricks is with a different team. And now Jason Hayward's with a different. These are guys that I thought would be part of the Cubs organization for many years. The respect that they had for Jay Hay everywhere he went, Atlanta, St. Louis, the Dodge, anywhere that he's went, he was well respected by the organization. Kyle Hendricks, everybody knew one day he was going to be doing something with the front office. There was never a question. And the 10-year anniversary year, both of those guys are going elsewhere. What do you think is going on here?
Yeah, you know, it's funny, Crawley. You know, certain things bother certain people in different ways, right? This one, I can't jump. I could give a rat's ass right now that Kyle Hendricks is with the Dodgers or with the Tigers. And I could really give a rat's ass that Jason Hayward is with the Dodgers. I don't care. I don't know what the drama is. And if you're not watching us, Crawley's giving me bitter beer face on Zoom or Twitch or whatever we want to call this, StreamYard, whatever we're broadcasting on. This is one, and again, these roles could be reversed. I'm sure there's certain things that I say that drive, you nuts, and you're like, who gives a rat? I appreciate you care. I appreciate people care about things. This is just one I can't get on board with. I just don't care.
When you think about an organization, in my viewpoint, and listening to the Lovable Reunion podcast, I listened to Joe Madden, I listened to Maley, I listened to Hensky. You can never have too many good minds. You can never have too many respected players in your organization. And imagine if all of a sudden Kyle Hendricks is going to South Bend, is going to Myrtle Beach, is going to Iowa and talking to some of these players. There he catches a bullpen and sees something. How many times have we been out to Mesa? And when you go out to Mesa, there's Sutcliffe, there's Fergie, there are old Cubs there that are giving their input. And Kyle is a very cerebral guy. And I remember when he was in the tail end of his Cubs career, all the players, all the young pitchers would want to have the seat next to Kyle Hendricks and pick his brain. And here's how he would attack opposing hitters and his mindset going into things. Jason Hayward, here's a leader. This is a leader. Say what you want about him as a hitter. I don't care. I'm just talking about a guy.
You're not wrong. He's a leader, right?
I want these guys. First of all, to me, the World Series team, every one of those guys mean the world to me. Every single one, every man on that roster means something special to me. So I guess in my own selfish way, I want them to be, I knew they weren't going to be Cubs for lives, but having them back in the family, having them back in the fold now that they're out. And I think that both of those guys are going to contribute greatly. And I just wish it was for the Cubs. I guess that's my point, is you cannot have, enough great players in your organization helping out at every level. And when you listen to the guys on the Lovable Reunion, Maley and Hinsky and Rizzo and Ross and Madden, they said to a T, it was everybody from the top down, everybody rowing in the same direction, getting them to the World Series. And to me, everybody in every single episode of that podcast, they've talked about the rain delay speech and the way that people looked up to Jason Hayward and the words that he said. And again, was it worth all the money that he got paid considering he didn't hit very much? Probably not. But you know what? You ask to a player, one of the best teammates they've ever had, and that's Jason Hayward. And what Jason Hayward's doing in the South Side of Chicago for underprivileged kids and the academy that he set up. This is a guy that commands a lot of respect. And when you talk about getting free agents, Dustin, these are guys that could be. I think Kyle Hendricks went on a couple recruiting trips with Jed. I think he went on a couple recruiting trips with Jed. But I'm not
maybe he sees that there's more of an opportunity in Detroit than there is in Chicago, moving up the ladder. I don't know. I mean, let's put it this way. Do you think the Cubs were being cheap? Do you think the Cubs didn't offer him a job? I mean, what do you think blocked it?
My understanding is both the Cubs offered both guys jobs, and they did not take them. So I don't know.
Now that's interesting. They both offered, and they didn't respond. That to me is interesting.
They turned it down. And I want to say it was Jesse Rogers who said that the White Sox asked about Jason Hayward too. So it wasn't just like one team. There was a lot of people looking for J-Hay to be part of the organization. And so that's the only thing I'm just talking about is I want the Cubs to be a destination where people said, I want to be a part of this. There we go. The Cubs, here we go. Jesse Rogers. Cubs spoke with Jason Hayward and Kyle Hendricks about rejoining the organization. They both went elsewhere. The White Sox also talked with Hayward. So these are guys that were in demand and they're not on the team. So it wasn't like the Cubs didn't want them. So to me, that doesn't look good on the organization. I want this to be a destination that players, both past and present, want to come back to and is a place that when young kids come out to Arizona, 17, 18-year-olds, they got guys like J-Hay and Kyle Hendricks waiting for them on the backfields. It makes a difference. I've seen it firsthand. And so for me, it's just a little frustrating.
I want the Cubs to find their offense specifically at 35th and Shields, Crowley.
Well, we've made our predictions and hopefully they come true. And hopefully tonight the Cubs can somehow manage to get one off Chris Sale. It's not going to be
right.
easy.
And at least get to Sale a little bit, right? Don't come back home with 6 hits, in a 3-game series and get swept by the Braves. All right, Crowley, that's a wrap. Don't forget to listen, down the review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. Email us thoughts, questions, concerns, criticisms. Crawley's Clubhouse at gmail.com. You can watch us like you might be right now by subscribing to the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube channel. Crawley, enjoy the games. We'll get together afterwards. It's going to be some nice weather, and let's enjoy it, and let's enjoy some good baseball.
Yep, and have fun at the South Side. Be respectful, Cub fans. And Dustin, enjoy yourself at the rate. Go Cubs!
It's all over.